welcome to everybody. I absolutely love LinkedIn, which is why I suggested a session on this, but it seems to have been very popular, so I think other people too are keen to know more. It's really transformed a lot of my career, actually, a lot of what I've done across time, and I think it's never been more important than it is right now in terms of trying to be more connected to the world. We're more missing those conferences and events and different things we would have been attending, awards dues, and we're not really having the chance to connect perhaps that we might have done in the past. So I think LinkedIn's probably never been more important than it is at the moment. I am really conscious that you can go on a 3-day course for LinkedIn. You can do a 6-week hour-a-week boot camp. There's lots out there in terms of training, and I'm going to try and cover all I can in an hour, or even less than an hour. I'm going to try and cover it in 45-50 minutes and take some questions at the end. So please bear with me. I'll try not to go too fast. As I say, there's an awful lot to learn. So what I'm trying to give you is a bit of a summary of my learnings I've had across this time. It may be that we feel at the end we need another session, or I can do another session, or perhaps I could do more of a meeting, a bit of a workshop to specifically look at things that people might be interested in covering in more detail. So that's definitely an option. Again, please email, leave comments if you feel you'd like to know more at the end. We'd really appreciate that. So as I say, for those that are coming on board now, do use the chat function to say hello, to introduce yourselves, and then please, as we go through, put questions in if you have questions, and we'll try and get to those at the end. I hope I'll cover lots as we go through. Throughout the presentation, I'm using myself as a bit of a case study. So I was quite an early adopter of LinkedIn. I've probably been 15 years using it now, right from the early days when, that very strict about only connecting with people that you knew very well. And I've now got nearly 10,000 connections. I think 9,300 connections. So it's really built up across that time. I use it hugely. So it's very much changed in the way I use it and the way it is able to be used across that time, both in what it does and also kind of what you're able to do with it too. But it's really made a huge difference to me in terms of business connections, in terms of raising profile for things I'm doing. It's really important to me in terms of my business too. So we will kick on and get started. There's 4 areas I'm going to try and cover in the next 45 minutes to an hour. First of all, how to create a strong profile, what your profile should look like and why that's so important. Also then how you connect with other people, so getting connected with other people, creating and sharing great content and what that looks like, and then how you can better engage with your network, make those connections and engage with that feed. So those are the 4 areas I'm going to try and cover today. We're going to kick off with a poll, so a little bit of interaction, just to know how happy you are at the moment with your LinkedIn profile. And I guess most of you are on here because you're thinking about that or you're keen to change that. So Kate's going to launch the poll. So we've got just 30 seconds or so to have a look at. If you could just click where you think, oh yeah, very good and responsive audience, fantastic, where people feel they are with their profile. This is actually, if you all say you're very happy 100%, it could be a very short webinar, couldn't it? So that's really interesting. Yeah, so most of you fairly happy, not that many that are unhappy, and middling. So yeah, the majority in the middle section, right in the middle there, happiest too. That's fantastic. Thank you. Look at you, nearly all voted too. That's brilliant. Okay, so that gives a good feeling. I think that, yeah, they're primarily people in the middle there in terms of how happy they are. Thank you for that, Kate, my lovely assistant. So in terms of moving forward then, let's look now at what we do and how we can improve our profiles. So before we start, I think it's really important to think about, I guess, who are you? It's a bit of a profound question for 1 o'clock on a Tuesday, but what do you want from LinkedIn? Who do you want to be on LinkedIn? So who are you trying to reach? And what do you want them to think about you? So is it that you are looking for a new job? You're out, sadly you may have lost a role at the moment and you're looking to find a new role. You're not that happy with where you are and you'd like to go and find a new opportunity. Is it that you're running an organization and you want to generate more sales, or you want to find some new partners? You're keen to position yourself very differently within the sector. So have a think about who you are and who you're trying to reach and what you can offer as well too. And there's a fantastic book here. I've just put an image there. I'm sure many of you will have read it. Simon Sinek in Start With Why. I used to have a stack of them on my desk that I'd give out to people. But just thinking about what it is that makes you you, what is it that distinguishes you from other people, and how you bring that to life on LinkedIn, because that's really important. So, there are so many people out there on LinkedIn. How do you distinguish yourself? One of the first things I would say about LinkedIn is that importance of the first impression. So it's almost like your business card. In those days, we used to go and meet people and hand business cards. We're back there again one day, won't we? But the business card, and it's also about your face. So when your face and how you look when you walk in and meet someone for the first time at an event, at a meeting. It's about, smiling, looking positive, that first impression. How professional do you look? How do you wish to appear? And there's lots that comes from a photo that won't come from a description and words. So your charisma, your personality, a lot of that comes from that photograph too. So it's really important to think about your LinkedIn profile as being your, a very animated business card for you there. Research does show that people that have really strong LinkedIn profile photographs are 14 times more likely to have their profiles viewed. And that's because LinkedIn is more likely to push them out in terms of the algorithm. It's more likely to put them in front of other people. People are more likely to click through and to engage with them. So it doesn't have to be a professional shot. But in this day and age, in terms of fabulous smart cameras and so on, we can all get good photographs, go outside for some nice lighting. It's not that hard to get a nice facial shot of yourself. So that does make a huge difference. As I say, I'm using myself as the example here. In terms of my profile picture, mine's in black and white. We all look a bit better in black and white, but it's in black and white because our website's in black and white. It's all the imagery across the website. It's in black and white on both Fearless Women and also the Women's Sport Collective. So it's quite a simple facial shot that's hopefully not too old. I know sometimes it's easy. You find a lovely photo and 10 years on, you're still using the same photo. It should look like you, so people will recognize you. I hope that if I sat here now, I still look fairly similar. So it should look like you too. In terms of how you upload your photograph, there's so much more you can do on LinkedIn now. So you take a photo, you can zoom right in, and you really want your picture to take up the mainstay of that little circle there. It shouldn't be you off in the distance. You can adjust it slightly. You can add filters now to make it brighter, to make it a stronger photo. So really no excuses, lots of ways to improve that profile photograph. So what I have done here, rather cheekily, I've covered your name, so you won't be able to see who's here, but I did go through across the people that were attending on this webinar to look at your profiles and those that aren't using. And the top blue piece here, if I just pop back to my own profile here, that top piece there where you can see I've got Fearless Women Changing the Game, that can be adjusted. There's a little button across on the right hand side here that can change. You can put any kind of banner or picture up there. I'm using Fearless Women Changing the Game because it's a relatively new company. We want people to know about it, but you can have any picture, anything up there in terms of that overall banner along with your photograph. It's those two things that are so important. So without taking people's names off, so you can't see who they are, they may recognize themselves. Here are some at the moment that could do better, perhaps a C+ in terms of their photographs, and also they're not using the banner at the moment. And here's another 9. So these are all attendees that are on this webinar here, are registered for the webinar. So they are all beautiful women. I have checked, beautiful women. So what we want is a nice photograph up front, nice and clear and bright, so we can see their faces, so that brings them alive. And also then to use that banner a little bit more. And there were more, so sorry to have picked on you ladies, but these were the ones that I saw that perhaps hadn't used the banner, and their photographs could be a little better. Fortunately, there are also some people that have already got it and are doing a lovely job there. So these women have registered for this webinar. And again, you can see some really nice examples there. I have left these ladies' names on because I feel they're doing great work. They would want to be recognised. But I love Rachel's with the rounders here. So amazing, lovely picture of the women laying down there in terms of giving a feel for what it is she does, the job she does. Is Sarah with a picture from Twickenham, Sarah who's working within rugby, athletics, so different shots that show different areas. I love Edith's picture with the women running there, gives a feel for her organisation. And similarly, perhaps you could just use a brand name, as some have done here, that a company, really nice opportunity to tell people who your company is and what you do. So some really nice examples there, very strong images. And similarly, more here. So again, I really like, Rachel actually hasn't got a picture of her face, the whole of her face, but she's tying her laces. She's, founder of Girls Run the World. So actually it's about running, and a beautiful shot of women stretching in the hills there gives a really lovely feel of what she's about, what the company is about. So she's utilising that opportunity to share that message. Similarly with Beth, working on the 100, so athletes from the 100 there, and the sponsors logos, that's really great that she's used that to depict it. On the charity side, so Sarah down the bottom there, really bringing to life the work that she's doing within her organisation. So fantastic. It's a chance to demonstrate, as Malin has, she's working in media, she's a sports journalist, so the images, her interviewing people, is fantastic. And clearly Helen's photo there, you know, if you're an Olympic gold medalist, then share that too. So look, beautiful shot of the team there from Rio with their gold medals within her photograph. So hopefully that just brings to life to you exactly what, you know, what's available and how you might be able to utilize that. Really a lovely feature. And I hope that if nothing else from here, when you go away, you could just update your photograph and update that. I won't come back and check, but a really quick way to make sure that you're seeing it, because that's the bit that people will see when they come to find you. The next piece then is your profile headline. So what that says about you. You've got 110 characters in this area. It shouldn't just be your job title. So that's the mistake, as it were, that people use here, is they just put, you know, I'm MD or I'm CEO or I'm head of this or that, the other. That's not enough. You really should be using it to say more about you, because the photo and that descriptor is what will appear every time you like or you comment, or when LinkedIn recommends you to people to follow. It's one of those. This is the bit that will say who you are. So it is worth taking the time to write more. I've probably got more than most in my descriptor, and that's because I'm a bit confused of who I am. No, but when people come to me, and quite clearly I've put I'm driving positive change for women's sport, so it's clear, so people know that's my, when we talked about the why, that's what I'm about. But because I am a CEO of a company and I'm looking for business there, I want people to listen to the podcast, I want people to pledge for the book, I'm involved in different ways. I want people to know about the charity, the Women's Sport Trust. So I've got a number of things in that little descriptor, but it doesn't just say CEO Fearless Women, which would mean nothing to people if they don't really know the sector that we're in. Just to show you here where you can change that again. So you go to your, click on your profile, you can change your banner, your photo, and that's where you can change your descriptor too. And I've got some examples. This is actually, I'm sure Sarah McQueen won't mind me showing her. I looked at Sarah's profile and I was looking at the people she was connected to just to get a feel for who I might connect to. And these were just on that first page, some of the people's details. So I'm not connected to some of them and I might want to connect to them, but actually chief executive, COO, you know, of what? Who are these people? That's all I get to see when I look at someone's connections. That is, I'm going to see their photo, their name, and then I'm going to see that descriptor. So some of them, you know, general manager, Middle East, of what? It's just not enough to just have one title. So to really use it, it's there for you. So use it to sell yourself there too. So, or some people just taking what LinkedIn prompts where they filled in those gaps. Don't do that. It's a chance to tell a story and say who you are. You then have the about section that sits beneath your profile, and here you've got 2,000 characters. So a real opportunity to demonstrate how credible you are, tell a bit more of a story. It shouldn't just be your CV, bullet points of what you've done. And by all means, add your contact details. Now you want people to, most of you do, I assume, but you want people to connect to you and to find you. And again, it depends what business you're in and what you're doing, but in most cases, I think that would be the case. So again, I'm using mine as a case study. I would talk about what I do. So the opening is it's strong, it's, you know, here, this is what I am, this is what I'm offering, and then here are the things that I've done, and at the bottom, here's where you can find me, here's my website, here's my email, here's my mobile number. So I want people to come and connect and find me. I don't make it hard for them to find me a link into. Again, that might not be right for you, but for me, I think it's really important that you share that information. So there you are, you've got this lovely piece to shape, and don't forget to keep updating that as things change and times change. You might want to update and change that too. You've also got a feature section on the homepage, so you can go through, and where you've shared content, you can just tap a little piece here and you can feature. So when you come to your homepage, it will have 5 or 6 different recent posts. You can feature articles and other information that will tell people a little bit more about you. So in terms of that whole people understanding who you are and what you're doing, again, just to add an opportunity to share some content there so people get more of a flavour of you. And if they're looking at you versus other people in similar roles, this gives them an opportunity to find out more about what you've done, and it gives you a chance to showcase some of the things that you're working on too. Another opportunity you can have within your profile is you can edit your profile in terms of your URL. You can change the URL. So for many of you, you may have LinkedIn @ and it'll have a slash and then your name and a number of letters that follow after it. That's very normal that LinkedIn gives you that, and just numbers that follow. But you can change that. So you can go into this piece here, edit your URL, and you can change it. So you could just have it as your name. So I'm just @Sue Anstis, and I'm fortunate, I guess, there aren't many other people with Anstis as a surname, so there aren't many other Sue Anstises. So if you're someone who's got other people with the same name, you can create something distinctive for yourself. You could just have your name. You could have, you know, expert in this, you know, sports developer. You could have whatever you want in terms of your URL. It could be your name and something else too, but I would recommend just your name. But also in that section, you have an option to create a little badge. So again, it's on the home page. You can just click onto the URL, and then down on the left-hand side here, you can say create a public profile badge. And from that, you can create some code that you can add to a website. You can add it to the bottom of your signature. So just so people can begin to see where you are and they can click into you. And again, that whole, the beginning, the opening sentence of your descriptor, as we said, your headline is there, the first thing that people will see too. So again, that's really important. So in terms of building that profile, I just think it's so important to do all that you can with that, to really build it up, to make it strong, to get that out there. The reason is, I mean, apart from the fact that that's how people are going to see you when they come to you, and that's really important, obviously, but also LinkedIn gives you an all-star profile. So if you can fill, but it has to be 100%, but if you can fill out your education, your previous roles, etc., eventually LinkedIn gives you, this is my one here, a little all-star rating. And this means when you're sharing content, it's much more, we're going to talk a bit in a moment about the algorithm that pushes content out there. But if you have an all-star rating, LinkedIn is more likely to recommend you to other people, as you might like to follow this person. It's more likely to promote your content. You know, you'll do better on LinkedIn with that all-star profile. So definitely worth considering and working hard to build that profile too. So that's it in terms of my, I guess, a whistle-stop tour of your profile and what you do. Please, if you have questions, pop them in the Q&A, and Kate's going to put them to me afterwards. I would like to answer, you know, if you've got specific questions too, but just generally, I hope that will give you a little flavour, and hopefully, you know, you can go away and work on that little and often to update it and make it a bit better. So we're now going to talk a little bit about connections. And obviously that's the core of LinkedIn, isn't it? That having that network and building those connections. So for a second poll, how confident are you at the moment about making connections on LinkedIn? So again, a 1 to 5. Thank you, Kate. So 1 being not very confident, 5 being completely confident at making connections. That's a little bit more equal than others would be. Excellent. Okay. Fantastic, lovely. Okay, so yeah, so not that many people. So 10% or so not confident, or you know, confident or not confident, and then yeah, about 60% of you kind of fairly confident on. So that's good to see that people are, and some of you are completely confident. That's great to hear. And some of you probably may have been on this system as long as me, so you're very confident. So I guess I'm going to give a bit of an overview of making connections, but maybe some of you are probably a bit further in terms of where that is than I might have been. So I think that in terms of results there, excellent. So I wasn't sure what people could see there in terms of that poll, but yeah, a real kind of balance there in terms of those, and some of you very, very confident too. So why do I love making connections? Okay, it's one of the fascinating things. I love networking. Those that know me would know I do love networking. I love networking with people in reality, in the flesh, when that's possible. But I do also love networking on LinkedIn and the opportunity to connect on LinkedIn. And one of the reasons that LinkedIn is so powerful and so just offers so much in comparison to other social media opportunities or platforms is that when you connect to somebody on LinkedIn, it isn't as if you just connect to that one person. So where I might add a Twitter follower or I might link to someone on Instagram, with LinkedIn, it isn't just one person. You link into that person and then you're connected to everybody within their network too. So you have your first tier of connections, and then that second level, which is everybody that they're connected to, and then that third level, which is everybody that they're connected to. So if you think on average, I think actually CEOs on average have about 900 connections now. I think that's the average that they say. But even if you just had 100 connections, say, so you've got 100 first degree connections in your network, well, across that then, linked to them would be, if each of them had 100 connections, you then got to 10,000. And across that, you know, you've reached in terms of their third connections, that's the opportunity to connect with 1 million people just through having 100 of your own strong connections. Because when you share content, and we're going to come on to that in a moment, if someone likes it or they comment on that content, it immediately is seen in the timeline of those 100 people their audience will then see that they've commented and liked that too. And similarly, if somebody then from their connections in that next tier likes and comments because they've seen it in their trail, you'll be taken out, as it were, into their connections too. So there's this massive opportunity, even if you've just got 100, 200 really strong connections, that as you're sharing content, you're seeing the opportunity to be seen and to reach those audiences. So as soon as you link into somebody, in effect, you're linking in to all of their contacts that sit within their own network. At the beginning of LinkedIn, way back when, I think it was about 17 years ago when LinkedIn launched, it was very much about you only linked in to people that you knew really well. I'm going to talk about this in a moment. And now that isn't necessarily the case. So I think don't accept links from everybody, but it is very much about expanding it and then recognizing that by linking into somebody, you can be in contact with their connections too. There's a little test they said that you can do in terms of seeing how LinkedIn used to share this, and I don't share it anymore, but in terms of you can see how many people are within your connection, so from your first degree, second degree to third degree. So if you put a little asterisk, as I've shown here with the top red area there, little asterisk in the search button, and you look under people, it would show you how many connections you have in your first, second and third degree connections. And so for me at the moment, it says I've got 695 million, which is nearly everybody on LinkedIn. But there is this piece of 6 degrees of separation that you'll get to a certain amount of connections that you have. And actually, if I've got nearly 10,000 connections and lots of those people are very senior and they've got 5, 6, 7,000 connections, so all of a sudden, you know, you're almost reaching through those degrees of separation to most of the people that are on LinkedIn. So getting started, and it seemed, as I say, I'm pleased to say that quite a few of you felt like you were okay in terms of making connections. But if you're getting started or you're looking for new areas to start those connections, definitely friends and family. And although you may feel they're not in your workspace, so you don't work with them, they may be connected to people that are, or they may be connected to people that are connected to people that would be of interest to you too. So friends, family, school friends, university friends. So just looking back and making those connections, not like friends reunited, but, you know, finding people from the past that you might want to connect to, and who knows where they are now or who they're connected to. Your colleagues, the people that you've worked with, sporting contacts. You know, we work in the sports sector, so the people that you're playing with are the parents of teams, etc., that you might know. So those kind of connections. Obviously, people within the industry that you're in, the key stakeholders and so on, suppliers. I would definitely say business cards on your desk. We definitely have less business cards than we ever have done before, but just going through, looking at who your business cards are from and connecting in with them. I do a lot before I go to a meeting, or if I'm on a webinar or I'm on an event, I will look at who the people are that are going to be there, look on who's CC'd, and then I may link into them before or after. So where you've got a bit of familiarity, you'll want to build that connection with the people that you're meeting with or talking with. Similarly, one of the best ways, and I guess this is probably how I started building up my connections, was going to the people who are like you or who are within the same space and looking at who their connections are and then linking into their connections. So you'll only be one removed from them. So you can ask anybody that is a second degree connection, you can invite to connect with you. So it's a really easy way to do that, is just to see the people that you're connecting and go through and link in, you know, ask them, make the approach, ask to link in. So that's a really powerful way. And one of the most powerful ways for all of you lovely women on this call is through the Women's Sport Collective. So I think we've got 903, I think, last time I looked, women in the LinkedIn, private LinkedIn group. So all of those should be connections for you. You know, you should be wanting to connect with all of those women in that group. And actually, it should be really easy for you to connect, because I'm connected in with most of them that are there. So you'll be, if you're connected to me, you'll only be one degree away from them, as it were. So you should be able to link into all those. So that's kind of one example. You may be in other groups too, but spend a lot of time going through and connecting. You kind of already know these are like-minded people. They're in the same sector, they have similar passions to you, so they should want to be connected. So that's a great way. And again, just remembering, not that it's not about the people that you're connecting with, but that is important too, but also it's about the people that they're connected to, you know, the doors they're going to open for you. That is the really exciting part about LinkedIn. So how do we get started? And again, it's interesting, isn't it? So you can do the approach that for every time you approach someone asking to link in, you write a little bit about, you know, hi, I'd like to link into you because we share similar interests, or we're in similar groups, or I feel I can help you. I don't do that anymore. So I just request, if people want to link into me, I just send a connection. I don't write and say why they would want to connect with me, because I don't really have time to craft that. But actually, probably depending on where you are in your career, how likely, perhaps because I've been around a long time and I've got connections, people are more likely to say yes to me. We don't need people to connect to me as much as I might have done perhaps when I was running the agency and I was kind of looking for new business opportunities, and so hoping people would connect to me. So mine is probably dealing with people trying to connect to me and whether I say yes to them or not. But I completely understand if you're just starting out and you're building those connections, you might need to ask. But I wouldn't ask too much. Certainly wouldn't. I had an approach today from someone looking like they're selling something. Can I connect with you? And I really want to tell you how you can save tax or whatever it was. You know, I'm not going to connect with them. I'm not going to connect with someone that I feel as soon as I've connected with them, they're going to try and flog me something. So be really natural. So, you know, at the end of the day, that's why people are here, to make connections. They shouldn't want to not connect with you. So, you know, ask how you can help them, what you can offer, or offer something to them, or just ask, but experiment, enjoy the process. You know, it's a positive thing. As I say, perhaps get started with a warmer, safer place, which is within the Women's Sport Collective, where you can build up those connections. As I mentioned earlier, do you connect with people that you don't know? If you'd have asked me that 10 years ago, I'd have said probably no. You know, LinkedIn said, you know, you need to really trust. It's a trusted collection of people that you know that you should link in with. I think now I would be happy to link in to anybody that approaches me that feels like they're roughly in the right sector. And you know, I do get lots of quite dodgy approaches from people selling things from all over the world, where I just say no, I would decline them. But I think generally, if they're in the sports field, or I can see we share a similarity, I wouldn't have to know them to connect to them. And I think that's probably where LinkedIn's changed quite a lot from where people were quite precious about it in the past, or you know, you had to put your email address in to show that you know them. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think it is about building a successful network. One thing I'm going to talk a little bit in a moment about algorithms and how LinkedIn views you. The more people that you have that feed with what you've said that you're about. So if use me as an example, I'm about women's sport, impact and profile of women's sport. So the more people that I'm linking with that are in that world of sport, the better it is for me. If I start linking with all kinds of random people, it might affect how LinkedIn perceives me and my rating. But definitely, I definitely wouldn't say only link into those that you know really well, and I would definitely accept invitations from people even though you don't know them well. So the third poll, I'm going to move on to talk about content. So that's kind of my whistle stop of connections. I'm doing 15 minutes on each topic here. So in terms of connections, I can see there's lots of questions come in, so hopefully we will have time to answer those a little later. So in terms of LinkedIn, how often do you share content? So never, very occasionally, once a month, weekly, or on a daily basis. I myself would be on a daily basis. So let's see, that's it, very interesting. So lots of you in terms of very occasionally and never. So that's only 40% of you is very occasionally and never. And then another 40% maybe once a week or monthly. And less than 5% of you is in terms of a daily basis. So I'm obviously in a little, it's quite interesting that it almost like aligns with what I think LinkedIn says the same. So the majority of you very occasionally sharing data, and that doesn't, sharing content, it doesn't really surprise me because that is pretty much what LinkedIn says. The lovely Bill Gates would say content is king, and I do feel if you're not sharing any content at all on LinkedIn, it's almost like you're invisible. I don't know what you're doing here, but really that is the opportunity to share content, and again that has definitely changed in the last 10-15 years. I think at the beginning of LinkedIn it was really about connections and making those connections. LinkedIn didn't make it easy to share content. It didn't make it easy for your content to be seen by other people, so you share stuff. It was a bit like shouting in an empty room. People didn't really hear what you were sharing. But now that's really changed, and LinkedIn's got much better at taking your content and getting it out in front of other people. So as I say, for me that's really, really important, the sharing of content. I absolutely understand if I asked you now why you don't share content. A lot of it will be you don't know what to share, worried about sharing something and it doesn't really get an engagement, and do I look a bit foolish because of that? What if people don't comment? Where am I going to find good content? What is good content? So I absolutely understand that kind of inability to start sharing. But it's lovely. Once you start doing it, you'll thoroughly enjoy it, I can tell you. So LinkedIn at the moment has about over 700 million users worldwide. About 300 million are active on a monthly basis, so they're actually using the platform. So the other half or so have just signed up but don't really use it. And yet only 3 million people are sharing content on a weekly basis, which would reflect very much what we've just seen in our poll. You're probably a little bit higher, on the higher side than that. But you know, the majority of people on LinkedIn aren't sharing content. And that's the same as many social media platforms, whether that's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. There's lots of voyeurs, for want of a better description, who are on there, who will look, who are really interested in the content that's there, but they're not sharing it themselves. They're happy to look at it, but they're not going to initiate that. And part of that's fine, because actually if they want to just be there and look, but there's an opportunity for you and this audience that's come to the session to begin to share content, because it's the people that share content that will benefit from additional connections and profile, etc. This is an amazing opportunity. It's this fabulous stage for you to share stuff, but you need to be sharing content, especially when you look at the LinkedIn research. It says 60% of people are looking for industry insights. So they want more information from LinkedIn. They're going to LinkedIn to find out more. So, you know, people, it's not as if you're forcing stuff on people they don't want. People want to learn more. So LinkedIn states that its mission is to serve you content from people you know, talking about things you care about. So that is the kind of message about LinkedIn. And again, that's changed. That wasn't always the case. Before, it was very much around making those connections, but now it's about serving you content from people you know, talk about things you care about. And that's because they know that its content is, you know, so powerful in terms of that content and engagement. I'm going to talk in a moment about the LinkedIn algorithm, and there is a LinkedIn algorithm, and there are LinkedIn editors that will decide what information gets shared and how. And research across a whole load of, you know, thousands and thousands of posts would show what LinkedIn likes. And I'm going to show you some examples of my posts, what worked well, what haven't. It likes feel good, positive stuff. So it's okay to be contentious every now and again, but the feel good that has a work relevance. So there's different stuff there's definitely things that I would share on Instagram or Facebook that I would never share on LinkedIn. So very much that personal family feel. So very much it's a work feel of things. It's related to careers. It's helpful and valuable. And years ago, I used to do social media training when social media was first taking off, probably 10, 15 years ago. We would talk about that need to share content that is engaging, entertaining, informative. You know, you want to be the person that's sharing stuff, and then there's that reciprocal feel as you're sharing content. People will want to, you know, see that you as an authentic person. They'll want to connect with you. So you're sharing this professional advice, but as I said at the bottom there, with a sprinkle of things that are heartwarming and personal and entertaining. So LinkedIn does like photos of you. The personal side is really important too. It's not that you're just sharing bland business content. It is a place of engagement. It is, after all, a social network, albeit a bit different to Facebook and Instagram. So in terms of my tips for creating great posts, I would think about different ways to stimulate your mind to think about what you might share. So you could share something that's educational. I just read this amazing book. I watched this documentary. You take a little link from a YouTube or Netflix and pop that in there with a comment about it. As easy as that. Take a photo of a book you've read. This is an amazing book. You know, I'll put a link to wherever you might buy it. So sharing useful information, things that you've enjoyed and shared, or a webinar that you've listened to, or something that you've been to. Being grateful. So thanking people are really nice, like a little bit of a recommendation, but almost public, to thank somebody for doing something and a link to them. Could be something controversial. I mean, obviously so much going on now in terms of sport, but how can this still be the case? So getting people to be engaged, to sharing something. I wouldn't do too much controversial, but some of my more controversial posts in terms of, you know, all male panels at events or lack of media coverage are some of the ones that have taken off, because people do really engage and get behind something that they feel very strongly about. You could ask a question, asking people to comment, and I'll come on to that in a moment. Perhaps something that's inspired you. So like you're saying, oh my God, this is amazing, this has happened. Some news, sharing the news. So often I'll find stuff from news websites or from other e-zines, or even from the news. So Kate and I often send each other in the morning BBC news pieces or things that we've seen in the Guardian, etc. And then I might just tag and share one of those. A fantastic story about this. What do you think about it? So just literally taking the URL from that piece of article or feature and sharing that. You might celebrate something so that they always get really good engagement, like they're really positive. People like positive stuff. People want to like and say that's great to positive things. So sharing positive things, making recommendations, I've said there, and also sharing useful things. I found this really useful online tool. I've been to this great website to see this stuff. You know, I attended this, that, and the other. So sharing useful things. So think about yourself as what it is that you're able to offer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to whiz through. I just took off my last 12 posts that I've done on LinkedIn, and just to give a feel and a flavour for what I feel works and what's worked for me. And definitely the number of views is really important. So how many people it's reaching, and you're really careful to get a bit of vanity of like just trying to get more views. It's about who you're engaging with and how, but it's also about how people are commenting and reacting to the content. That's really what you're after. That's a bit that will help it go further. So a lot of my stuff, I realise I've looked back over the last 12 posts, lots of celebration, lots of really positive. So here's a piece. We were appointed to work with Shoes Ready. So it's a really positive thing. I've tagged in the 2 people that we're working with in here, Lisa and Sarah. I've also thanked Kate because she's amazing. And then I've linked, and actually in this post, I've linked to their website through the post itself. So in fact, what people are feeling is it's better to put your link in the first comment below rather than in the post itself. It's more likely. LinkedIn doesn't really like you taking people from a LinkedIn platform off to other places. So there's a number of bits of research which say actually you're better to write your post and then say you can link in the comment below. But sometimes I feel it just needs to be there because people aren't going to go and look for the comment below. So I'll almost make that sacrifice that I might get less views, but we'll get great connection. And this obviously had a lovely number, 2,500 views and 41 interactions, or 50 altogether interactions and comments and so on too. So educating. So again, a lot of what I do is driving people to hear about the podcast, the Game Changers, and then to link into it. So again, this is a very nice piece. So it's celebrating that a new series is coming. Again, I put the link within this post here. Has about 4,300, had a few more now in terms of engagement, but over 100 engagements, and that's the piece I'm going to come on to a moment. It's really important how many people are engaging and seeing it. So education, that's kind of education and celebration, I guess, too, isn't it? A celebration piece here. So this was from our first networking call. So I'm thanking people that talked about it. Now this, I say it's a celebration. This is almost like a little bit of advertising, because from this call, so we had 5,000 views on this call. We had 120 interactions, and Kate will say we probably had about 30 women then sign up from the basis of this. People, so 5,000 people have seen it, it's been in their feed, and then people have come and registered to sign up and get involved with the Women's Book Collective. And here you see I put the link, see the link in the first comment below. So it was a link to sign up for the Women's Book Collective below that, and it generated leads for us. Another celebration. So this is the work we're doing with the Women's Sport Trust, and here again I just took the video. So there's a YouTube video, so I just took the video, and then so I put the link into LinkedIn and that post, and then it starts the video beneath it. And then I tagged in various people that were involved and congratulated those that had done an amazing job with the Unlock programme. News. Now this is just a piece. I saw this on a website, the sports industry website. I just took the story, added a little bit of comment about it, got 1,000 views, got some interaction. So probably not as much as normal. It's not completely in my field of what I'm doing, but it was a way of just sharing something that I thought was quite interesting that they were doing. Educating. So in terms of just, I've had all of these books. So I tried to get some comments there, tried to interact. So what are you reading at the moment? So asking a question, getting people to interact and share what they were reading, and thanking again the people that had made the recommendations to me. This was a recommendation. Now this is interesting. So this is Alex Priest's fantastic newsletter that I would recommend, actually. Amazing sports marketing newsletter that he shares. I shared that. And it had 750 views, which is kind of okay. I reshared his, but I'm finding now that actually it's better. It would have been better for me to have taken the content of his post and shared the newsletter and tagged him into it rather than just resharing his post. So LinkedIn doesn't really like you just resharing someone's post. It's probably better just to create your own post with their content. This piece here was about this session. I asked people for any ideas and suggestions. I also shared a link to the social dashboard, which was social selling dashboard, which I'll talk about at the end here. And as you see, it had nearly 7,000 engagements. This was really, obviously you're on LinkedIn talking about LinkedIn, so you kind of think that's going to be a winner there, really. But also there's a link to, the link took them back on to LinkedIn to measure their social selling dashboard. So I think that probably it makes it more popular, more successful with LinkedIn too. And I ask questions as well too. This is a recommendation. So Jenny, who does our PR, had shared this lovely piece of coverage that we got for the Game Changers, and I reshared hers. Again, about 1,000 views, which is nice, and no, but not amazing numbers. This is a piece again about our last board meeting, and we talked about the board game, and I put that out there. So again, nearly 4,000 views there, and we asked people to register, and they did below there. Educating, another piece with the podcast here. So again, 4,500 views. And celebration, I said that importance of celebrating. So this is a lovely piece here where I just share, all I did was share photos of the women that I'd interviewed for the Game Changers. There are no links in the post at all, nothing about the series. It's in the next link below, and it got over nearly 11,000 views. So and about 220 interactions. So again, people like positive. It's not, we all do, I do too. It's nice to celebrate the nice stuff. So that that celebration got really great coverage. So I mentioned about the LinkedIn algorithm. So LinkedIn assigns a score, a quality score, to what you're sharing before it goes out to anybody. So it looks at the text, it looks at anything that's attached to it, and what your keywords are in it, and then it decides how it will be received. It thinks, it predicts how it's going to be received by your audience, and then it shares that content with a small sample of your audience. So probably a few in your first connections, and those that regularly comment or like your content. And depending on how it's received, how that test goes, it then shares it with more people. And depending on how that's received, it shares it with more. And that's how things can go viral, because it keeps sharing. Each time it shares it wider, wider, wider. But it really depends on that initial piece of how it's received in the first time it's shared. And that's why it's so important, the timing of when you share. So I don't share very much at all at weekends. I might occasionally, but I don't really share much at weekends. I will tend to share early morning, mid-morning, or early evening, because I know that's when people will respond fairly quickly. So it is important to think about when you share. I don't like webinars that have lots of lists, but I've got a lot to get through here. So in terms of where I see successful content, what I think works, post consistently. So I know a lot of you have said you're not posting at all at the moment, but post consistently, don't overshare. So I think the kind of golden thing they say is about 20 times a month. So it's almost like on work days, post once a day on a work day. So don't post 2 or 3 times a day like you might do on Twitter, but post consistently. And the more you post, so the more people start liking and sharing your content, the more LinkedIn will push it out to the people, and the more profile you'll get. Focus on the audience and be authentic. So think about who it is. Remember that why we talked about. So who are you? What are you sharing? What do you want to be seen as? What do you be known for? You could now use hashtags in LinkedIn. That's something that's growing very much at the moment. I wouldn't recommend more than 3 per post. Post a comment that's going to attract comments. So what you're after is not just likes and reshares. You want people to comment, because that's the bit that means that LinkedIn's most likely to reshare your content in the future. And we talked about this golden hour. So in the first hour where you share things, that's when it's really important. So if people comment on your content, go back and thank them and tag them in and build that conversation. You're hoping to build some engagement there. Don't tag people in unless you think they're going to respond and share stuff. So you do see this post, but it's got, I get tagged in them a bit, but 20 different names tagged in the bottom. It's just irritating, because all I'm going to see is every time someone comments or shares it, it comes up in my feed. So only tag them if you really think they'll respond, or if they want to be involved there. And I say, don't be tempted by the vanity metrics of why you're here on LinkedIn. Think about why you're there and what you want. It's not just about getting numbers and profile. Is this building? Is this credible? Is it helping me? And who, you might have many less people engaging, but if you've got 10 amazing people that you want to connect with engaging with you, that's brilliant. You don't need 1,000 if you've got the right people engaging with you. I'll put this one here because this is just as in terms of the algorithm and how it works. So this is the post I did last week. So we built up the whole of the Game Changers series. Jess Ennis, this post should have had 5,000 or 6,000 views and loads of interactions. It's our most famous athlete we've ever had on the podcast. Lovely way to finish the season. We've built up to it. I didn't put the tag in for the podcast in the main thing. I put it as an attachment. So you would have thought, oh my God, this should be amazing. However, it only had 362 views. It stopped. So as soon as it got 362, it just stopped, and it had no more views after that. And I think the reason is because of this beautiful photo of Jess. So I think LinkedIn, and I was going to go back to them and ask them before the session. I haven't had the chance to do so. But I think someone at LinkedIn thought, oh, it's like a beautiful but half-naked lady in this post. They thought it was inappropriate, and they stopped it, and they didn't share it to anybody else. So that's really interesting as an example of, it's not necessarily down to you how good the content is. Someone at LinkedIn is looking and seeing and making decisions around that content, and that's the only reason I can see that this amazing post about Jess Ennis only got 362. I'm conscious of time, talking quickly, going to get through it. I'm going to talk a little bit now, just last 5 minutes or so, about being connected with your network. So getting engaged, and I've kind of alluded to it as we've gone through a little bit. There's different ways, so you can just like or celebrate, different emoticons you can use in terms of your commenting on different people's content. I would say do more than that. Definitely like as much as, you know, it's really good to interact and feedback, but also comment. Don't just comment for the sake of it, but a positive, engaging comment. You'll then be seen in the timeline of the person. So other people, always other people that see that person's content will see you there and you commenting on that. So please do engage. I would definitely say, I would ask this in the women's sport group, you know, share, don't just be a voyeur, share, you know, getting involved, say that you like stuff, share other stuff with it. It's really, really important to be engaged in that way. I'm going to touch briefly on recommendations, because someone did ask me about this. As you say, I'm trying to cover as much as I can. But in terms of giving recommendations, then there's an option to give and to get recommendations. So absolutely, I think it is worth doing. It's something I probably don't do much of myself, just because I think you're busy doing other things too. But if you're, again, getting started, trying to build profile, it is important to do that. LinkedIn kind of comes and goes with what's popular and what's not at the moment, and it has been pushing this part about giving and getting recommendations. If you want to give a recommendation, so you can go to anybody's profile. This is lovely Kate's profile here that I've used for this example, but you can click on the more section here and it gives you a drop down, and you can just say recommend, so you could give a recommendation to her, so just say how, you know, what a wonderful job she's doing and how amazing it is to be working with her, and she can then choose to put that recommendation on her profile or not. And similarly, you can request a recommendation, and I would say always perhaps ask people that are more senior than you or people that are influential. You want to make sure that's the case in terms of recommendations. If someone's told you in an email you've done a fabulous job, or they told somebody else, actually just ask them, would you mind putting that as a recommendation on LinkedIn? So it's worth doing. It will help your profile. I wouldn't go chasing them myself, but definitely there is a benefit to be had to be having recommendations. There's a little piece I mentioned here in terms of the way you can measure your effectiveness on LinkedIn. So I will share this presentation after here, and I can share these slides too. So this is the LinkedIn address that you'd need to just put that into Google. And this is what it will give you your social selling index. This is how you're ranked by LinkedIn. It's really hard unless you subscribe to Sales Navigator, or you pay for LinkedIn, which I'm going to come on to in just a second, to get your social selling index above 80. I think the highest I've ever been is 82, but to get high 80s, 90s, you're not going to do that unless you engage with their whole insights program. So it measures you on 4 things. It measures you on your professional brand at the top there, so mine is 20. It measures you on finding the right people. So I'm not as high on that, which might be that I've perhaps connected to people that aren't right for me or completely in my area. The next one, which most people rate quite low on, is engage with insights. And again, unless you pay for the insights package through LinkedIn, you won't get a high rating on that one. So it's impossible to get to high 80s, 90. And then the last one is building relationships. That's fairly a bit easier, but this is really positive. So it says I'm in a 1% top ranked of social selling index, and across my network 2%. So you know, it's not a science. Well, it's a bit of science, but it's a nice way just to keep track and see. I think the highest I've ever been is 82, and I'm at 77 at the moment. So I've got 10 minutes left. I'm going to finish with this. Another question that was asked to us before this session: do I need to pay for Sales Navigator? Again, I think it depends very much what your role is and what you're doing. I've twice signed up for Sales Navigator when I was running Promote, and I was definitely out getting new business and making connections. I find it really hard to, it's very expensive. I find it quite hard to get the most from it. I think it takes time and you need to know how it works. I personally don't really engage with people that approach me from a sales perspective through Sales Navigator. I think there's so much more you can do organically. All the things that we've talked about today, building your profile, sharing great content, interacting. I think there's just a lot more that you can do in that space without having to invest in Sales Navigator. Now, people that are actively involved in sales might call me out and say that's absolutely not the case. They love it. and that might be the case. I just know from my own experience, I've got far better engagement, and I can link in and connect without having to invest in software. Oh, right, we're going to final quick poll and then we're done. So Kate will launch a poll. Quick question of, do you feel more confident? It's an odd poll, really, isn't it? I'd be really sad if everybody says no. Oh, there you go. Okay. It's that one when you go, oh, phew, goodness me, that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I am really conscious. It's a bit like that whole thing where I'll get one star on my podcast, isn't it? If somebody just for a laugh puts no, I'll be really sad. So it's very positive that people still feel they've got something from this, and I do hope, as Kate said, that we can definitely run something again in the future if people feel that'd be of value. So that was a bit of a vanity exercise, wasn't it? Do you feel more confident having used this? I should have asked you how much more confident you feel. Lovely. So my final slide is just to have my contact details up there. Let me stop sharing that. So that's where I am if you want to know more. And I'm going to ask Kate now I'm just very removed in this webinar fashion, but whether you've got some questions that I could answer. I'm really happy to stay on a little bit. I've got, a little bit after if people want to stay, understand if you need to go. But Kate, do fire away.
So we've got a lovely range of questions, Sue. I'll start with a couple of quick ones first, and then we can go into some more discussion ones later. Is there any point in going back and removing contacts from a previous life, so to speak? Is it like cleaning up your...
Yeah, I don't know really. I haven't done so. I haven't done. If people annoy me or they share ridiculous stuff or whatever, and we're going to come and talk about stories in a moment. So actually, I don't feel there is a need to, because I think it just bolsters, and back to that piece around you don't know who they know and who they're connected to. So unless you've got a completely different feel, but I wouldn't recommend that at all. I think the goal is to try and keep building, because you don't know who they're connected to. Just quickly, I'm going to touch on stories there, which people might ask about. So LinkedIn launched stories a couple of weeks ago to be a little bit more like Instagram, and that's the reason I might start removing people is when you look through their stories, it's like, oh my lord, it's completely dull, and I don't really want to be connected to them anymore. So actually that last week I did remove a few people, or stop following a few people, because I didn't really want to see what they were showing in their stories. So yeah, that might be the only reason why. I'll keep them short.
Lovely. All the features you've talked about today, are they available on a standard account, or do you need a premium account?
No, all free, and everything's there is on a standard account, nothing on premium. I wouldn't recommend premium. I have to say I've gone premium. I've done Sales Navigator. I've had a premium account. Premium kind of tempts you in if you want to see who's been looking at your profile and whatever. But actually, for the money that it is, I personally don't think it's worth it. I think you can spend that time building all that. So all this, I don't have a premium account. All that is just on a regular account.
Lovely. Do you know the best time for the most engagement post content?
Yeah, I think it depends where you are and where you are in the world, etc. So I tend to do early mornings, because I know that's when I look. So it's probably similar to anything business-wise. Early mornings, it probably used to be lunchtimes, but actually I have had some really good engagement late in the evening. So 7, 8, 9, when we probably shouldn't be on LinkedIn, but we are looking at. So I think during work times, definitely better. Mid-morning into lunchtime, definitely weekends I get very little engagement. I think that's really good. It's really healthy. Get off LinkedIn at the weekend. So I definitely think not weekends, but sometimes evening work. I shared something last night about the Explore page, and actually that had really good pickup, and that was quite late yesterday evening. So a little bit around what you're sharing, and whether people are open to it at that time too.
Thank you. And the difference between LinkedIn groups and Facebook groups. So why did we decide to put the Women's Sport Collective on a LinkedIn group and not a Facebook?
Yeah, I guess I'm not a massive fan of Facebook. We do stuff on Facebook. I think Facebook feels, for me, still more personal, more family, more, there's things that I'll share on Facebook that I definitely wouldn't share on LinkedIn. So I think LinkedIn as a place for a business network just feels like the right place. Go to where people are. And I know that we've got details. I don't feel it's intrusive to ask to connect to any of you or to bring people into Facebook. I know if I was running a sporting group, if I was running a women's, open water swimming group, I might set it up on Facebook, because that's kind of more the personal side. But I think as a business network, it felt like it was the right place to be engaged on the LinkedIn group here.
Thank you. And a couple of questions about sharing your contact details. So have you ever been trolled, stalked, over too many unsolicited calls? Has it been a problem?
No, not at all actually. And as I say, I think people sometimes approach people might email me. I don't get masses of it. I think actually they're going to just block them or don't, don't respond to them. But no, I haven't done. And I think, I don't know whether I'm in a different field and other people might find that's the case. But ultimately, it just frustrates me when I want to contact somebody and they make it so hard for me to connect with them. Actually, I want to contact them for something positive. And again, it might be different if you're a CEO of an NGB or you're in a position where, or you're someone you've got loads of people approaching you for sponsorship. You might not want everyone emailing you. I guess I just feel the value in being able to connect, so making it really clear. And also when we talked about profiles, making sure you've got the email that you want is on your profile so that people can connect to you if they want to.
Thank you. Do you avoid the LinkedIn lions, the LinkedIn open networkers? I
don't avoid them, but I haven't become one. So no, I don't think I think I'm quite generous to come along, connect. So I don't avoid them, but I don't go out to look for them to link in with them.
Thank you. And do you have any guidance on sharing giveaways on LinkedIn?
Oh, I've just stopped sharing my screen, haven't I? Sorry, everybody. I smashed. Sorry. Can you ask that question again, Kate?
Do you have any guidance on sharing giveaways on LinkedIn?
Not particularly. I haven't ever done that. I don't see a huge amount of that. I think it doesn't really feel like it's the place that you would be doing that, and I would worry slightly in terms of the perception of LinkedIn around that. So I think it's more, I would share, I mean, very generous in terms of sharing. I would share content and insights and links to things. I think that's probably more valued. If here's an amazing report from YouGov around the takeover of sport across Europe, share things that people go, oh, it's very useful and valuable. So it's probably more of sharing intangible information rather than sharing anything from a giveaway point of view.
Thank you. We've had a couple of questions about your banner, your profile, and about when you're actively looking for a new role, or two, if you've got more than one role, how do you balance that?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And actually, I feel like I fall in that category myself. So my banner could be the Women's Sport Collective. It could be Fearless Women. It could be the Game Changers podcast. Lots of different things. So I guess it's you can change it. It doesn't have to be the same all the time. Definitely in terms of the whole changing a role. And I know that they've got that whole open to work, the green piece that you can put around your profile. I wasn't really sure how I feel about that. I think it's a really difficult time at the moment because lots of people will be out in that space looking for work. Again, it's whether on your, and I read stuff about this, whether on your profile descriptor you say open to work or I'm looking for a new role, or whether you should say what it is that you are. I'm a marketeer specialising in the sports field, or I'm working in sports development, or whatever it is. That actually that's how LinkedIn will find you and connect you with other people, because people, especially people that are headhunting, will come looking for people with that in their profile. And if you haven't put that, if you just say I'm open to work or I'm currently between roles, it doesn't really say who you are. So does that answer the question? So I think I don't really have an answer in terms of your, you could divide it up into different things, or you pick a picture that's just a beautiful picture that doesn't specifically say the one thing that you do. So it doesn't have to, your banner picture doesn't have to be, it could just be an amazing picture of dogs or cats or something lovely, but it should reflect what you are. But it doesn't have to be the one thing that you are, I think, so for many of those women, I think for my profile picture, I could have amazing women playing sport, I could have girls playing sport, there's lots of different banners that I could have that would reflect what it is that I am. It doesn't have to be one thing or another.
And the final last question, so we're hit time, is it, what's the etiquette on posting Zoom pictures? Do you need the authorization from everybody on the call?
That's very interesting, isn't it? We have said almost like when people are involved, are they happy to have the content shared when they register in the first place? That's a really interesting question, and that's a very similar question that we used to have a lot around at sports events, when you're taking a picture of a team, when you're especially, and I guess on a children's basis, especially in terms of CRB. So I don't know the answer to that. That's a really interesting question, one that we should find out. Before I take a picture, this is me personally, I would always say to people, I don't like the surreptitious when people just take pictures of you without you knowing it, and then I see it posted later, because I've got a bit of might have had some resting bitch face. Or actually, if you look at anyone on LinkedIn, on a Zoom calls, we all look a little bit. That's kind of how we sit. So I'd like to look my best. So I would usually say to people, I'm going to take a photo to share for social, and ask them to look up and smile. If they want to then turn their cameras off, they can do. So I guess it's giving people the opportunity to do so. But that's a really good question.
Lovely, thank you. So we've also had one really interesting question about how to get the most out of stories, but I do believe that's probably a whole webinar in itself.
That's for part two. Yeah, and stories are very new, so I think I would almost like to have some time to see how that goes, because at the moment it's new, and therefore people are keen to be engaged and utilising it. But I'm not sure we've quite found out how it's going to go and how LinkedIn is going to promote it. So actually, if you look at posts versus articles, is one thing. LinkedIn doesn't really promote articles. When you write a long article, it doesn't really get the same push and reach that posts do. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with stories, and if they do give it more of a push, because they're really keen to make sure people see them. So yeah, really interesting. I hope that was of use. I could carry on forever, but really happy if people want to share other questions, or I'll answer what I can in terms of emails. Be really nice, and I know I've said this in terms of the LinkedIn group, but please do, connect, ask some questions, use the Women's Sport Collective LinkedIn group to engage, to put some of these things into practice. I'd like to feel from here you might go away and begin some more engagement and get involved in terms of sharing information. But I really hope that was of use to people. That's good. We've done that within an hour. Wow. I'm impressed with myself and my speed of talking.
Thank you, Sue. Can I just say thank you? Yeah. It was a great session. I've learnt loads, and I'm sure everybody else has. So thank you very much, because I know it's taken you a while to put all of that together, but it's been a great session. So thank you from me.
Excellent. Thank you, Beth. Thank you. And we will share it. So we'll post it out to people so you can see again and see some of the details and the stats. I do realise it was I say a whistle stop in an hour, but hopefully that was really useful for you, and we look forward to seeing you. So we've got another new members meeting next week, I think on Tuesday, and then Rada's doing a session on sport with intention webinar in a couple of weeks' time, and then we've got our Christmas gathering in December. So lots coming up. So please do let us know how you felt this went. Do drop us an email. Really happy to have some feedback and what you're looking for again in the future too. So thank you to everybody. Feels a bit weird being on this side and not being able to interact with everyone, but thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you in a Zoom meeting again for the Women's Sport Collective soon. Thank you.